Mandy's Southern Stitching, where we talk about all things sewing and quilting here in the great state of Georgia, where I live. And I have our project manager here, Miss Pumpkin, is going to help us. And today, we are going to work on baby quilts with this beautiful flannel fabric called Snuggle in the Jungle. It's kind of a gender neutral thing. It's got pinks, yellows, and blues, and grays, and all these beautiful, cute little jungle animals on it. And we're going to see how many baby quilts we can get out of this layer cake. I'm going to cut it into charm squares. So there's 42 10-inch squares. If you're not familiar with a layer cake is 40 to 42 10-inch squares. They're also called layer cake, I think is what Moda calls them, but they're also just called 10-inch squares. Sometimes they're called gems. They have a couple other names depending on the designer. So we're going to cut this up into 5-inch squares, which will give us about 120 something, I believe, maybe 160, somewhere around there. We'll count them up when we're done. And we're going to divide them up by color. Like I said, if you look on the back here, if you can see that, it's probably a glare, but we have, you know, grays, pinks, blues, yellows, and kind of a white on white or white. Mostly white. And then once we get that done, I'll show you a layout that I'm planning to do for one quilt, and then we're just going to freeform it and make some other quilts. So stay tuned. I'm going to get this ready to cut and unpackage it, and I'll show you how I do my cutting, and then we'll start laying them out and sewing them up. Alright guys, we are back. I've got them all divided into colorways. We have the most that are what I would read as mostly white. Some have a little bit of color on them, as you can see, the blue, the pink, but most of them are gray and white with just a little bit of color. Then we have gray, what I would read as mostly gray, blues, we have a lot of blues, and then we have about equal amount, probably a little less of the yellow, and a little more of the pink than the yellow. So you know, it's not, with layer cakes, you get the entire collection, but some of them there's duplicates and triplicates, and some of them you only get like one print. It depends on how many's in the line and how they decide to divvy them up. And this one's how this one's shaped out. Layer cakes, to me, are the best value if you really like a fabric line, but you can't spend hundreds of dollars on a fat quarter bundle, half yard bundle, but you want everything in the line because it will all work together in a quilt. You can get a layer cakes are usually $45 now to $55, depending on where you buy them from and the manufacturer's suggested retail price. And you get a substantial amount. Like 2 layer cakes will do a king size quilt. Like a layer cake and some yardage will do a queen size quilt. And I've got one that I just finished that was just 1 layer cake and some yardage that was 90 inches by 90 inches almost, that I just pulled off the frame yesterday, and I can show you that in another video. But layer cakes are my favorite, and I have tons of layer cakes in my stash because you fall in love with a line and you can't really decide what print you want, so this is the most economical way. And if you catch Fat Quarter Shop, Missouri Star, any quilt shop, sometimes will have sales on their precuts, and sometimes, like, I think I got this one for 20 bucks. So if you wait as long as it's not a popular line, you can probably get what you want for even half the price, which is what I do most of the time. If it's like something that I know is going to sell out because it's super popular, I'll go ahead and buy it full price. But a lot of times I buy my layer cakes and jelly rolls and charm packs when they're almost half price. So now we're going to get started cutting. And as you can see, I have an assistant right here. She's deciding to move. She's going to move over here beside me or go somewhere else. So we'll start with the least amount. It'll be easier for me. Let's move all these over so I can get access to my cutting board here. And I did notice since this flannel, like one of them or two of them curled up in the pack, so I had to go flatten them out with an iron. And you may have to do that. So a lot of them come on cardboard, but some don't. I've gotten a few that don't come on cardboard, and they wrinkle up really easily. And some of the cardboard have a different layer wrapping it and not under the cellophane to keep it all together, and some don't. So it's just manufacturer preference. To me, as long as it's all together and it's not too wrinkly, I don't really care. So because this is flannel, I'm only going to cut only 2 or 3 at a time, and just so I'm more accurate, and even though I've got a brand new blade, that way I don't have to press so hard on my mat. This is my old mat that's already cut up pretty good. My new mat's in there. This one I just already had on the table. So what we're going to do is just kind of line it up. This one has a 10-inch square in the center, which helps. And then, of course, you count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So on this 9-inch mark here in the middle is where we're going to cut. You can use a larger ruler, but this 12 by 2.5 inch one I like to use for smaller cuts of fabric because it's just easier for me to handle and easier for me to steady. So I'm going to stand up so I can get some pressure down on the mat and I don't hurt myself. Safety first. And I'm going to cut. And then I'm not going to move the fabric, I'm going to move my mat. And you can use a rotating mat, or you can just use a smaller mat that you can move on your table. And I'm going to count so I don't mess up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's the 12-inch mark and the 9-inch mark on this one. And then I'm going to cut. And then you have 5-inch squares. Now they're a little bit bigger because of the pinked edges, and you'll see this on them. With the pinked edges, sometimes they're going to be a little short or a little bigger, depending on how the manufacturer measures from the pinked edge. But, you know, if it's, as long as it's close to 5 inches, I don't care. So, and we can always trim them down if we need to. So, 4 here. Left so I know that they're cut, and I use this True Cut rotary cutter from Grace Company. I have rheumatoid arthritis, so, and like I'm in a really bad flare for the past 2 weeks, and I can barely move this thumb, and this one I don't have a lot of grip strength in my hands for the past couple of weeks. Hopefully when I get to the doctor in a few weeks, I can get something to help remedy that. But until then, this is a lifesaver because I basically just kind of rest my fingers on it, and I'm not having to grip it. I do have an ergonomic one that's supposed to be good for joint pain, joint issues and stuff, but then you have to pinch it to release the blade so you can cut, and it doesn't always work well when you're in pain. So I got this one as a freebie for participating in a focus group that they were doing to learn about, you know, consumer purchasing, and, you know, just get them some general feedback on their products, because I do use a lot of their products, especially their machines and frames. And, you know, I will definitely buy others of these if this one ever wears out. It's also got a handy release on the back, so I'm not going to cut myself trying to unscrew the screw on it. It's, you know, it's just an all-around good cutter. So if you have joint pain or grip strength problems, I would highly suggest you getting one of these. And you can even do this one sitting down, I've noticed. Sometimes I don't like to, because sometimes my cutting gets off, but as you can see, I can sit and do it without having to put a lot of pressure on places that I don't want to. So I'm going to turn this, and we're going to cut. Okay. We got a big old stack of yellow here. Do some pink, since it's next to the lowest in the volume. Here. And I find layer cakes to be, like, sometimes charm pack quilts call for like 3 charm packs, and it's just a lot cheaper to buy. Just make sure we're all lined up. Yeah, these pinked edges, it's a little bit over 10 inches, which is good. I mean, rather than give me more fabric than that's enough. So, but I digress. So we're gonna go back to what I was saying. Yeah, layer cakes. To me, they're just more economical. And I feel like I get more for my money with a layer cake. I do use jelly rolls from time to time, but I don't usually use small pieces. I've got a few quilts I'm working on small pieces with, but I like doing like the same block over and over again, as opposed to samplers. There's just some kind of quiet calmness to it, to just do the same block over and over again, because then you get good at doing, you know, perfecting your techniques on, you know, a single block. And then it's just kind of, if you like me, you like mindless sewing, where you don't have to think a lot. Once you've done 2 or 3, you don't really have to think about it, as long as it's not a complicated block. Excuse me, I have to go get the dog because she's getting plastic and eating it. No, no, no. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Alright. She's still a puppy. I digress. Now back to our cutting. No, do not get my stuff. It's Dolly, by the way. She is our golden doodle. She was adopted a few months ago from an animal shelter, and I foster for a rescue. Since I got her, I haven't fostered any more dogs because our house is full. But she was through their program, and she was just the best girl. She's still a puppy though, and she likes to get into puppy things, do puppy things. So it's kind of like watching a toddler. Still working on potty training. So my quilt room stays locked off. Do not want her defiling my quilts. Anyway. But, yeah. So, and, you know, you can cut these anyway and use them for multiple purposes. You can even cut these into 2.5-inch strips if you don't need very long strips. Yeah. Back of the Moda layer cake has like cutting instruction ideas. That one's a little short. It's okay. It's okay. start on the blue. I love these tigers. I wish these tigers were in pink, but I noticed they are not. I'm a little upset because I think tigers should be pink too. They weren't in the yellow either, but okay. I know that they couldn't make every different colorway or they wouldn't be able to print the line, but there's like some that I'm like, you know, you've ever had that, like, man, I wish this was in this color. You know, this print was in this color. Or you've had some where, ooh, I don't like that color. Like, there's a new line out that I just sewed with, but there is a green in it that I do not like. I cannot stand, and I did not want to use it in my quilt, but I did. Just because the pattern called for, you know, use of a whole honey bun, and I didn't want to waste fabric. But there was just this green that I am not a fan of, and my favorite color is green, but not that green. So I like these gender neutral ones because I can, these gender neutral layer cakes here, because I'm fixing to start selling a few baby quilts. And that way, you know, anybody can pick it up. You know, a lot of people now are waiting until the babies are born to find out. They're going back to, it's a surprise, which is great. So that way, you know, if you happen to have one of those and you're not struggling to find baby fabric, that can be used for all. I love these zebras. I follow a rescue in Oklahoma that rescues horses and sells them, adopts them out. Well, basically sells them. They do run a profit, but it's, I don't know if it's a non-profit or not, but you know, they take horses that come through the auction in their county that have been basically sold to be meat. They get shipped out to meat processing plants in Europe, or I think there's 2 horse meat processing plants in the United States. I can't remember. I used to know, but anyway, they have zebras from time to time, and I'm like always sending that video to my husband, like, hey, our HOA, our homeowners association, you know, kind of forbids farm animals, but they have never said anything about zoo animals. Hint, hint. Please buy me a zebra. So we went to Disney a few years ago, and we stayed at the Animal Kingdom Resort, and there they have giraffes and elephants, and I don't think they had the elephants out there, but they had giraffes, they had gazelles, they had zebras, and a couple of other cute little animals, and a bunch of bunny rabbits. Just hanging out, and you can sit on your balcony and just watch the animals. And I could have just done that and not gone to the park, because that's what I did every night, is just sit out there and watch them, because they were so pretty. And then they had baby ones, and you know, I was like, I wonder if they would just miss one. I will just take it with me. We can fit it in the back of the truck, husband. He's like, no, that's stealing. And I'm like, I know, but I love zebras. And I was like, it's just a little striped horse. But anyway, I digress while I'm cutting. So, one day you may see a zebra in my backyard. Well, not here, but we are planning when my husband decides to retire, or, you know, when my kids outgrow this house and move on to their respective lives after they graduate high school in about 8 years, and college, that we're planning on finding our forever home. This is just our This is the Kids Good School District home. This is a good place for us, for my husband's career and stuff. So, you know, when all that's said and done, it'll be time for us to find some land, build our own little house. And I'm going to have lots and lots of animals. I'll probably have a few rescue horses. Even if I can't ride them anymore, I will have pasture ornaments. And I have a zebra. You know, that's hopes for one day. If I don't spend all our money on fabric first. I won't. Okay. And we'll go to the grays. Just make sure all these are pretty much lined up together. That one's not, so we'll add him to that pile. And let me know in the comments what your favorite pre-cut is. I'm interested to know. Some people prefer fat quarter bundles. I have started buying a lot of them lately just because there's like several lines that I love and I want to make more than one quilt with. But I still kind of default to layer cakes if I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. And I have a lot of patterns that are layer cake friendly, so I'll be curious to know what your favorite pre-cut is, or if you just prefer yardage. You know, me, it's more project-based when it comes to yardage. A lot of patterns are written in magazines for yardage, and I kind of don't like that. But I kind of can, like, gauge on them based on the cuts if I can use a layer cake or a jelly roll. Some of them will say that you could use it, but, you know. So, there's more zebras. I have zebras. Zebras and panda bears. I'd love to have a panda bear too. But they're just about all gone from us. They're returning to China. I actually got to see the last panda bears before they went to China in the National Zoo in DC when I went last year. I also love red pandas. I think they're awesome. Have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called Turning Red on Disney Channel. With the girl turns into a red panda, her mom does too. I just thought that was the cutest movie. Like I said, as long as they're 5 inches, you know, even if they're a little short, a little long, you know, as long as they're all about the same. Is what we're looking for here. Consistency and cutting and seams give you a better quilt. Just like true story. I was showing off a quilt. I followed a quilt pattern in American Patchwork and Quilting the last issue. It was a log cabin quilt, and it said the blocks would be unfinished at 12.5 inches. Well, apparently my 1/4 inch seam allowance is more like 1/3 of an inch. But I use a 1/4 inch guide on my thing, so I'm not sure why, but anyway, my blocks ended up being all consistently 10 3/4 inches square. But they were all about the same, so we went with it. I just made my borders, my sashing wider, my borders wider to compensate for that, and I ended up with a bigger quilt. And so
know, as long as things are consistent, it don't have to be a 1/4 inch. You could sew with a 1/2 inch if you felt like it. You know, as long as all your seams on that block are the same, and that whole quilt, it will work and be just as pretty. So, I am not a perfectionist by any means. I sew for fun, and being uber precise and uber attention to every last detail. I'm pretty good at attention to detail, but you know, being very anal about how things come out in the end doesn't make quilting fun for me. It doesn't make anything. I kind of like to have creative license to do what I want, and if as long as it comes out and it looks good, I'm happy with it, then it's a win in my book. So, and let me know what style of quilting you are. Everybody does differently. Some people, you know, if it's not precise, then they are, you know, then it's not fun for them. But I'm the opposite. Don't have to be precise. I want to have fun. And it sucks the fun out of it when, you know, there's stress involved. I quilt to relieve stress and relax and, you know, enjoy myself with a little bit of me time. You know, do something with my hands so I'm not just staring at a TV screen. Feel like I've accomplished something on days when I don't get a lot done. We're almost done. As you can see, as I'm going, I've gotten more confident in my cutting that sometimes I'll get more than like 2 or 3. But it depends on if they're already lined up. If they're not lined up together, then I don't, because this flannel sticks really bad to itself, which is good when you're piecing. But when you're cutting, you don't. You kind of want it to be able to move and shift a little bit to straighten things up. What you got?
You got Danielle's toy. Can you not tear it up? You just tore it up. Has it? Has it? Has it? Release. 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 Thank you. Bye. No.
Hold it with her feet. See, I don't know, that kind of reads yellow, but we'll see. We'll save those out and see. To me, they could go either way. And it just depends on, if I need some extra yellows, I can throw those in. Or pinks, blues. Sticks, but you steal that out from under my feet. She's a little fart. I'll get her in a minute. The kid shouldn't have left that toy on the floor if she didn't want it taken by the dog. That's what I tell her every day. It's like, if you don't want the dog to touch it, you need to put it away. Because she touches everything. She's a toddler. Here we are. Home stretch here. These are just going to be simple 5-inch square quilts. I'm not making half square triangles. I'm not making any funny shapes or anything, because I just want to be one and done on these. This would be really cool, like if you have a work friend who's having a baby shower, church friend, someone that you get invited to on a shorter notice. You could whip this out in a weekend. And what it is, I just took my EQ8 quilt software. I've been practicing with it. I'm still not proficient in it, but it just gives me a way to color things. If you watch Kimberly Jolly, she uses EQ8 a lot to color her quilts before she starts piecing. These are way over 10 inches, but that's okay. Like I said, as long as they're all about the same, and we can always trim them down. You know, so I was just kind of playing with how I would want to lay this out, because if not, like, if I just sit here and just throw it together, it's not going to look as pretty. I have to have a plan. Okay. Alright, well, I'm going to take this dog toy away from my dog, well, this human toy away from this dog, and we will come back and I will show you the layout that I've planned for this first quilt, and then we'll sew it up. Alright guys, we've got it laid out, and it's kind of hard to tell in here because I don't have really good light, but I have a row of blues, a row of white and gray, and then like a kind of a mixed row of 3 where I kind of went blue, yellow, pink, and then back and forth, and kind of just did some random in the middle, and then a row of white and gray again, and then a row of pink, row of white and gray, and a row of yellow. So, and I did decide to treat the kind of white with the one solid color. They kind of read more the solid color, because when I tried to add them in the white and gray rows, they didn't kind of mesh well with the rest of them. So we're treating them as that. And we still got a whole bunch of stuff. So probably can get at least 1 or 2 more quilts out of this. So we're gonna sew this up and I'll get right back to you. All right, guys. Here is the finished quilt. I just sewed it in rows, vertical rows. Started with the yellow row on this side, and the white and gray and the pink, and then on, and I've even sewed these in these. Now, my points don't match. I mean, they're a little bit off in some places, but I don't think the baby that's going to be snuggling on this is actually going to care. It still looks pretty neat. And we're going to square it up and everything, and it'll be all right. So this is about, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows. Probably about 4 and a 5. Let's see here. Let me go get my measuring tape. And I'll be able to tell you how this is going. flattened out a little more. I'll put some best press on it. But looks like we're about 41 inches, about 40 and a half one way to 32 the other way, oh, about 31. So a good size baby quilt. I could add an extra row. Horizontally if I wanted to, but I think this is a good crib size. You know, it don't have to be square, and it doesn't need to be too big. It's big enough for, you know, to lay a baby on for tummy time. It's big enough to for a little toddler to tote around and not be too heavy, because it's going to be flannel, so it's going to have a little heft to it. So, oh, and we have a new friend. We have Miss Cinnamon coming to say hi. You want to say hi, me bun?
Say hi, me bun. Hi, me bun.
Please put me down, woman. She don't like me help. So this one will get quilted up, and the next day or two, so I can bind them this weekend and put them up for sale. So it's getting baby shower and wedding season around here. So let's see what we can do. Let's start with another one. Okay, now I can do the same pattern, or I can just come up with my own. So let's see. We could try with a simple 4-patch of all 4 colors. Let's see here. And a blue and a pink and a yellow. Just go from there and just do simple 4 patches and flip them so that they're not showed, you know, or just do them all the same way. It doesn't matter. You know? Hi y'all. Welcome back. We've got it all sewn up. Goes this way, or either way. As you can see, we have a row of blue, a row of gray and white. We have our kind of a mixed rows of 3, then a row gray, row pink, row gray and white, and a row of yellow. And it measures about 40 and a half by 32. It's a rectangular, good size baby quilt for a baby. And, you know, not too heavy when it gets quilted for a toddler to tote around. It's a good crib size quilt. So we're going to get that quilted up this week so I can get it bound, get them on site to sell. And we're starting on our next one. And I'm thinking of just doing a simple 4-patch with all the colors and just kind of mixing it up and seeing how things turn out. And then that'll be baby quilt number 2. And then stay tuned, we'll get this one sewn together, and then we'll start putting together baby quilt number 3. Alright guys, quilt top number 2 is done. pretty good, and once I trim it down after quilting, it's going to be perfect. It's just a simple 4-patch that I repeated, and there's a total of 16 4 patches, I believe. And it measures approximately 36 by 24, so a little crib size quilt. You know, maybe a little car quilt. Nothing too big, but this is quilt number 2. Stay tuned for quilt number 3. Alright, y'all. We have finished the 3rd quilt top and the final one. So I answered my own question. How many quilt tops can you get from a layer cake, baby quilt size? And this is the 3rd one. I ran out of yellow, so I just did a row of blue, a row of gray and white, a row of pink, a row of gray and white, another row of blue, and then another row of gray and white. And it is approximately 26 by 36, so it's a smaller baby quilt, about the size of the other one, number 2. And I had only 9 squares, or 8 squares, 8 or 9, 5-inch squares left. So basically 2 layer cake squares, and a quarter of another one is all I had left. That. So let's review. This is number 3. This is number 2. It's just a 4-patch. And it's about the same size as that one. There. And then number 1 is the larger of the 3. With the solid lines and then the breakup of lines. So there we have it. We have 3 quilt tops. I have 1 layer cake, and it took me just 1 day to do it because it's just simple square patchwork. Alright, so thank y'all for watching. Stay tuned. We're going to get these quilted up, and we will post our progress as we go along.